Hey there, race fans. It's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. Pocono Raceway, the Tricky Triangle, the track that's got different degrees of banking similar to 3 different racetracks in Trenton Speedway Turn 1, Indianapolis Motor Speedway at the Tunnel Turn in Turn 2, and the Milwaukee Mile in Turn 3. It's a very interesting racetrack, and all over the years people have complained that it's kind of been boring for the most part, but I gotta admit, the dramatic finishes and the racing overall in general this weekend, Pocono, good job. You put on a good product this weekend. Let's recap the doubleheader of both Pocono races that occurred this weekend. Let's get into the craziness. Number 1, Alex Bowman picks up his 3rd win of the season, winning the Pocono Organic 325. I believe that's what it's called. I may be mistaken. Let's just call it the Pocono 325. Alex Bowman captured the win in dramatic fashion after his teammate Kyle Larson, leading on the last lap and heading into the final turn, blows a left front tire, and Alex Bowman takes the lead and goes on to win his 3rd win of the season, winning it over Kyle Busch, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Ryan Blaney. Alex Bowman was relatively quiet for the majority of that race on Saturday. He was there, but he wasn't dominant. But on that last restart of the race, he got a nice jump off into turn 1, passing Kyle Busch, but he had to hold off his hard-charging teammate and Kyle Larson behind. Larson put up a fight with Bowman, took his time, was very patient behind him, and got by him lastly with less than 5 laps to go. But as mentioned, the 5-car cut his left front down into turn 3, and hit the wall. That took him out of contention for the win, and Bowman would go on and pick up his 3rd victory. I mean, the last couple years, the last 3 years, 2019, 2020, and this year, Alex Bowman's won in every season. But again, this is the first season that Bowman's had more than just 1 win. He's got 3 wins. And this is coming off of last week where he signed a 2-year extension deal to stay with Hendrick Motorsports. So the extension deal for him last weekend at the race that was sponsored by Ally didn't really work well for him with the top 15. This weekend, though, much better. And he comes away with another win, building more bonus points with the playoffs. I mean, Alex Bowman could be a sleeper to maybe make the championship 4. The way he's been running lately, and with this win and all these bonus points, it could really help him by the time we get to the playoffs. So kudos to the 48 team. Number 2, Kyle Busch puts together an incredibly dramatic victory in today's Pocono Mountains 350 in the 2nd race of the doubleheader, where he was stuck in 4th gear at one point, and under pit stops during green flag, he had to be pushed by the pit crew because when you're stuck in gear, you can't really go. So under one of the pit stops under yellow before the final stage started, his teammate handed him a bungee cord to help him with the shifter to properly shift, but he had a tough time and he was still stuck in 4th gear. But luckily, he pitted 1 lap later after everybody else pitted, so he could save plenty of fuel because there was possibility that it could come down to fuel mileage. And it did. And Kyle Busch capitalized while stuck in 4th gear and went on to get his 2nd win of the season. His 4th win of the Pocono track, I believe. He won it in 2017, 2018, and 2019. So yeah, this is his 4th win of this track. Kyle Busch, an absolutely incredible victory. I'll give him credit. You know, I've been bashful about Kyle Busch, but he is a really talented race car driver. And for him to win today stuck in 4th gear at a track where you normally shift a lot, but with this 550 package, you really don't at all, and saving all that fuel, that's an incredible. I mean, Kyle Busch is one of the greatest race car drivers we've ever had. And he captured saving all the fuel to win the race today over Brad Keselowski, William Byron, Kevin Harvick, and Bubba Wallace. Picked up his first ever top 10/top 5 for the 2311 racing team. Bravo, Bubba. Bravo. No, wait, Byron did not finish 3rd. My mistake. Who finished 3rd? Who's finished 3rd? No, Kyle Larson finished 2nd. My apologies. Brad Keselowski finished 3rd. I'm sorry, I got the mixed order. It was Kyle Busch, Larson, Keselowski, Harvick, Bubba. That was your top 5. Number 3, Kyle Larson. I mean, again, I'm going to bring in the events of the 1st race to the 2nd race. The 1st race, he was really good. He stayed in the front for the most part of the race, and he stayed up there and battled out for the win with his teammate Alex Bowman. He would go on to win the race. He would go on to have a shot to win the race, but cut the left front going down into turn number 3, hit the wall, and sent him to a 9th place finish in the race. And because of that damage, he had to go to a backup car for the 2nd race, which we ran today. And it took Kyle Larson quite a while to get to the front of the field. He actually ran to the back of somebody with the front of his nose, and they had to tape it up. but with pit strategy, he was able to fight his way forward to the front. And Larson wasn't as dominant as he was yesterday, but still to come away with a second place finish. The 5 car is definitely on a run, and yes, their chance to win 4 in a row in NASCAR ended yesterday, but still the 5 team is firing on all cylinders and putting together solid performances week in and week out. In my opinion, he's still the championship favorite. Just because you don't win any of the races this weekend, or both in general, doesn't mean that it wasn't a bad weekend. You showed speed and you had good finishes. Yes, the 9th place at Pocono sucked, but still a top 10's a top 10. And in 2nd place today, starting at the rear with that backup car and getting a little damage on your front bumper, shows how good of a race car driver you really are. I mean, Kyle Larson is just absolutely talented. Number 4, fuel mileage. It's a really big conversation every time we come to Pocono because guys go on different strategies. Do you want to stay out and try to get some stage points, or do you want to pit early to try and battle it out for the win later in the race? Well, fuel mileage was kind of all over the place, particularly in the second race today, unlike yesterday, because everyone had enough fuel to go to the end. Guys were trying to play down on fuel. Brad Keselowski was staying out for a couple laps. William Byron was too. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, and Kurt Busch all played the fuel game, while guys like Harvick and Blaney and Bowman were pitting behind them and tried to fight their way towards the front to try and get the W. But it didn't work out for those guys that had pitted late in the race. Instead, some of the guys that stayed out benefited in some way. As I mentioned, Kyle Busch. Brad Keselowski had to pit for fuel, but he ended up with a 3rd place finish. Larson stayed out on that fuel, but fell way behind Kyle Busch because he went into fuel save mode, but he ended up with a 2nd place run. Denny Hamlin at a track where he's been so good at in the past, a track that he really hadn't won at in since last year. I felt like he was in position today when he was in front of Kyle Busch because they were on the same fuel strategy to try and save fuel. But with a couple laps to go, 2 laps to go, Denny Hamlin comes to pit road as he runs out of gasoline, and he has to settle for a top 15 finish. And he said, "We've got a lot of tough luck right now, and we've got to turn this around." I mean, Denny Hamlin's still the point leader, folks. But because Kyle Larson's been hot lately, Hamlin leads Larson in the points by 2! By 2 points! He had a 100-point lead early in the year, and now that Larson's been winning, and running better than the 11 car, Kyle Larson may end up taking the point lead from you, and you possibly could miss out on 15 extra bonus points as the regular season champion. William Byron, it looked like he was going to save a lot of fuel and make it to the end, but the fuel gauge started flashing towards the very end, and he had to pit with about 4 or 3 laps to go and settled for a 12th place run. Kurt Busch looked like could save some fuel and try to get a top 5 out of it, but he had to pit late and he had to settle for a 20th place finish. But Kurt Busch, in general this weekend, though, did gain more points than the 17-car Buscher. Kurt Busch is now, after yesterday's race and after today's race, only 3 points above the cut line. Above! This one car is coming alive. I mean, the finish today doesn't show it. They had top 10 speed. The 17 car's been on a downfall, and who knows if they're going to be able to turn around. It's going to be a battle all the way to the checkers at Daytona. And that race could be an absolute curveball because anybody can win there. But the fuel strategy today was very interesting. We were interested to see which crew chiefs decide to take a gamble on their drivers and say, we're going to stay out. We're going to try to bet on it. Or guys say, we're going to pit for fuel because there are some guys that could chance it and they may blow it and run out of gas. So a lot of interesting strategies when it comes to fuel mileage, especially at this track of Pocono. It's a very unique racetrack that can provide some exciting fuel strategy for the crew chiefs and the drivers throughout the race. So good job for Pocono for that. And number 5, the racing product in general, the fuel strategy, the restarts, the side-by-side action in the middle of the pack. It was some good racing in Pocono. They put on a show this weekend. I mean, the restarts are just, there's restarts, we all admit, Pocono's been bland for the last couple of years, but you gotta admit, the restarts are fun. The restarts were incredible this weekend. There wasn't really a lot of crashes, thankfully. Most guys took care of it. There were a couple of skirmishes, but not a ton. Again, the 550 horsepower package may suck, and especially at a track like Pocono, but honestly, this weekend, it was some good racing. And I think the finishes with the dramatic last lap cut tire by the 5 car on Saturday and the fuel strategy today probably played a factor into that. But there was some good racing. You could pass. The guys stayed together for 5-10 laps, and then, of course, they get spread out with pit strategy, and handling becomes a factor. But Pocono Raceway, we have this doubleheader. We started it last year because most people were kind of tired of Pocono just have separate weekends. Why don't we just have 2 Pocono races the same weekend and just get it over with? Well, you know what? Pocono Racing provided some good racing this year, and the attendance for the race was through the roofs. It's one of the... I've heard that the parking and the camping there at Pocono was the most it's had in ever, camping wise. Parking wise, like just in the grandstand, not so much. There were a good amount of fans in the grandstands, but the infield with the trailers and the campers and everything, they were packed. I mean, Jack Collinsworth on NBC was down there, and there were people like throwing a fire pit of empty Busch Light beer cans. There was a Christmas tree with a red Solo cup on top as the star. That's total NASCAR redneck right there. That's awesome. It was a good event overall for Pocono this weekend. They did a very good job, and hopefully that racing could be really good next year with the next gen car. Finally, driver recap for Chase Elliott for both races. Yesterday we had to start 29th because of the disqualification from the Nashville race. At the start of the race, before we even got our car up to full speed, there was a checkup in front. We hit the back of somebody, and Ryan Preece rear-ended us. The left rear was damaged, and I'm just like, my God, Ryan Preece didn't check up in time. And we had to fix the car, but luckily the car had some good speed, and we fought our way up to the top 10 at one point. We ended up with the 12th place, which after that damage, I'm all right with that finish. And then today, based on the invert order, because we flipped the field from the top 20 finishers in yesterday's race, so if you finished 20th, you'd start on the pole, and if you won the race, you would start 20th. We started in the top 10 based off the 12th place run starting in 9th, and we stayed top 5, top 10 the majority of the race. But by the time the final stage come, Chase Elliott got into Christopher Bell, which he got a little loose and sent Bell up towards the wall, and that cut the right front of Chase Elliott. He had to pit not once but twice if he finished twice at the lap down. So in all honesty, Pocono was a weekend to forget for the night team. Last three races really haven't been, we've had speed, just not really the luck. But thankfully, we've got a road course coming up, so I've got a feeling Chase Elliott's going to win that one. So, with that being said, next weekend, the NASCAR Cup Series makes their debut trip to Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. This road course has provided some interesting, exciting racing for the Xfinity Series over the years. Xfinity Series will be there this weekend, but the Cup Series makes their first trip there. And there are a couple guys in the Cup field that have more experience over these veteran Cup drivers that have been there before in Xfinity. Guys like Chase Elliott, Cole Custer, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Chris Buescher, a lot of those guys. I mean, Kyle Larson has run there before. Those guys have plenty of experience, I think, there, particularly, especially when it comes to Chase Elliott, that they're probably going to run up front more often. But the Cup guys could catch up because we will have practice for this weekend as well as qualifying. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to come out on top. And the other thing about next weekend, we're racing on Sunday on the 4th of July. We get to celebrate our country's freedom and on the anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence signed by Thomas Jefferson and the rest of the men of the Sons of Liberty from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We get to celebrate our country's holiday with racing at Road America next weekend. I mean, it's kind of weird that the last 2 years we haven't been able to race on 4th of July at Daytona, or on 4th of July weekend in general at Daytona and under the lights, but now that's the last race to make the playoffs. I mean, we're kind of changing it up. I like the patriotic schemes under the lights, but I'm sure there's going to be plenty of patriotic schemes this upcoming weekend. So we will see who's going to win the inaugural race at Road America for the Cup Series. Will it be Chase Elliott like he did at COTA? Will it be Martin Truex Jr., who needs to get on some momentum because he hadn't finished well the last couple of races with the exception of Sonoma, which he's really good at there? Will Kyle Busch carry off of his incredible, dramatic, and interesting win from today over the next weekend? Will Kyle Larson get back to winning after not winning it all this weekend? Or will a new face pop up? Michael McDowell's a road course racer. AJ Allmendinger is going to be in this race for Colleague Racing because they're doing the road course race this year, and we all know how good Allmendinger is there when it comes to road courses. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. Before I close out the video, I would also like to mention a couple other things that happened this weekend in the NASCAR news. Jeff Gordon, my former favorite race car driver, who is a 4-time Cup champion, a 3-time Daytona 500 winner, multiple Brickyard 400 winner, multiple Southern 500 winner, and a NASCAR Hall of Famer, who's been with Fox Sports the last couple of years since 2016, has announced that at the end of this year, and effective January 1st, 2022, he will be leaving Fox Sports and moving over to Hendrick Motorsports in a new role as vice chairman. Now, this is not a surprise because there's been rumor over the last couple of years that Jeff Gordon may take over leadership for Hendrick Motorsports once Rick Hendrick's time is officially over, because it was supposed to be Ricky Hendrick, but after the dreadful, terrible plane crash that took his life as well as 9 other people in the plane crash en route to Martinsville in 2004, Rick Hendrick lost a lot of his family in that plane crash. And something that we all need to, reflect about. But Rick Hendrick still carries on strong. And there has been talks that Jeff Gordon could step up and replace Rick Hendrick. While this vice chairman role will totally suit that. Plus, I feel like Gordon wants to go back to being competitive and helping Hendrick Motorsports build on success the next couple of years. And the way they're running this year, I'm not totally surprised by this whatsoever. I am going to miss him working for NASCAR on Fox next year in the TV booth. I thought like he did a really, really good job. So that's a spot that people have to fill, that the Fox crew has to fill by the time next year, or else it'll be a two-man booth with just Mike Joy and Clint Boyer. But I think we're going to try to get somebody else in the booth. Larry Mack, maybe? Jamie McMurray? Michael Waltrip? We got options. We got plenty of options. And also this weekend, NASCAR Hall of Famer Jack Ingram, one of the most successful Xfinity Series drivers, passed away at the age of 84, I believe. Very sad for the Ingram family, and I send them my deepest condolences. I've never really seen highlights of Jack Ingram, but from what I understand, people say he's one of the greatest Xfinity drivers that ever raced in that series. So, Jack Ingram, rest in peace, my friend. So, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll be here to recap next weekend on 4th of July Sunday at the NASCAR Cup race at Road America. So subscribe, like, congrats to both Alex Bowman and Kyle Busch on winning the doubleheader this weekend at Pocono. Hope you all enjoyed the racing at Pocono this weekend, which was actually really fun to watch. And have a wonderful week, everybody. Cheers.